Mirror TV. The world is thinking.
Good evening and welcome to the Commonwealth Club Silicon Valley program brought to you from the Santa Clara Convention Center. My name is Lata Krishnan. Our speaker this evening needs very little introduction. He is a best-selling author and physician and the founder of Chopra Center for Wellbeing in Carlsbad, California and Manhattan, New York. We are pleased to have him here tonight as it is the launch of his latest book, Reinventing the Body, Resurrecting the Soul: How to Create a New You. As I've known him for the past many years, I've just marveled at his brilliance, his intellect, and his ability to use his words and thoughts to reach so many hearts and minds all over the world. It's an absolute pleasure, delight, and privilege to join everyone here in the Silicon Valley. Let's give him a resounding welcome. Deepak Chopra.
That's good. So how's life? How's everyone? Do you believe that you have a soul? Because if you don't, then this is the wrong lecture, the wrong event. Okay, so when we use the word soul, what do we really mean? Anyone? Spirit. Okay. Let's use the word soul as synonymous with consciousness. Okay, because we're conscious beings, right? You're conscious right now. You're conscious of your thoughts, you're conscious of your body, you're conscious of this room, and your consciousness allows you to think, to perceive, to speak. When somebody's dead, then we say they have no consciousness, right? So, in a sense, consciousness is synonymous with life. Life and consciousness are synonymous. And if there's one mystery right now in science that has not really been solved, it's the mystery of consciousness. We know so much about the Big Bang, we know about astrophysics, we know cosmology, we know evolution. We are very advanced in our understanding of mathematics and the laws of physics and chemistry, biology, but consciousness eludes us. In fact, the more we understand biology, the more we understand how the nervous system works, the more difficult it becomes to understand consciousness. And one of the things, of course, is when you're looking for consciousness, it's your consciousness that's looking for consciousness, right? So when consciousness is looking for consciousness, then by definition, that's a subjective experience, right? Consciousness looking for consciousness is consciousness looking for itself. So by definition, that's a subjective experience, and science does not deal with subjectivity. Science deals with objective things. So that's one of the problems, where science finds consciousness so elusive. But let me see if I can give you a real idea of experientially what consciousness is. So just close your eyes for a second. And I want you to imagine that you're looking at a beautiful sunset on the ocean. Imagine that you're looking at a red rose with a green stem. You can smell the fragrance of the rose, feel the soft petals of the rose. Touch the stem, run your finger up and down, feel the prickly thorns. Okay, now open your eyes. So, as I said these things, you had an experience, right? And it wasn't difficult. All you had was a very subtle intention, and then you had an experience. So let's imagine that I was looking inside your brain today, And today we can do that. We have all kinds of technology to look inside the brain when you're thinking a thought. That's what we're doing right now, you're thinking. Today one can take a carbon atom and put it in a sugar molecule, radio label it, inject it, and then look at the brain as you're having these thoughts. It's called positron emission tomography, and there are other ways to do it, functional magnetic resonance scans, imaging. So let's say I was looking inside your brain when you were imagining a red rose or a beautiful sunset, or looking at that green stem, or feeling the sensation of the prickly thorns. Do you think if I was looking inside your brain, I would see the picture of a sunset? Obviously not, right? There are no pictures in your brain. There are no sounds, there are no sensations. The brain is very dark, and all it shows is electricity and electrochemical reactions. Basically electrical impulses that go between neurons along synaptic networks. You can think of synaptic networks as small micro fiber optic channels, if you will. But you saw a picture, right? So where was that picture? The picture was in your consciousness, okay? It was not in your brain. Did the electricity in the brain create the picture? Or did the picture create the electricity? Or did your intention create both? And where did the intention come from? Beginning to have some idea on this. But until recently, one of the greatest scientists of the world, Sir Arthur Eddington, said of things like this, he said, something unknown is doing we don't know what. The more we look inside the brain, the more elusive, as I said, consciousness becomes. So all your thoughts, your perceptions occur in consciousness. All your subjective experiences, imagination, desire, memory, intention, insight, intuition, creativity, inspiration, choice making. These are the attributes of your consciousness. Okay, now, instead of imagining things, tell me what is this color? Blue. So let's examine what's happening. There's some electromagnetic energy or wave or disturbance of electromagnetic energy that's coming from here to your eyes. Is that blue in color? No, otherwise we'd see blue beams coming from here to your eyes, right? But some invisible disturbance of one particular frequency of the electromagnetic spectrum is coming from there to your eyes. It's causing a disturbance there, an electromagnetic disturbance, a chemical reaction. And there's an electrical current going to your brain. And the current is not blue. And then there are synaptic networks that are firing electrical impulses between neurons. And they're not blue. So there's no blue there. There's no blue from there to there. And there's no blue as the electrical impulse goes to your brain. And there's no blue in your brain. Where's the blue? Where's the blue? In your consciousness. Where's Deepak? In your consciousness. Where is your own body? In your consciousness. Where are your thoughts? Where's this room? In your consciousness. Where's California? In your consciousness. Where's the United States? Where are the stars, galaxies, the sun and the moon? All in your consciousness. Okay. And the great rishis of India said, know that one thing by knowing which everything else is known. And that one thing is your own self, your own consciousness. Now, as I said, science has been trying to figure out the mystery of consciousness, which is synonymous with your animating life force or your soul, if you want, because your soul is your core consciousness. In the last century, there was a brilliant scientist by the name of Dr. Wilder Penfield, and he was also looking for the soul. He was a neurosurgeon, and when he would operate on his patients, in those days they'd do neurosurgery under local anesthesia because your brain doesn't feel any pain when you operate on it. And he would stimulate different parts of the brain to see what was happening. So one of his experiments was one day he was stimulating a part of the brain called the motor cortex. And the motor cortex is that which controls movement of the body. So he's stimulating this, and the patient's arm started to go up like this. And so he asked the patient, "What's happening?" And the patient said, "My arm is moving up." He said, "Are you moving your arm?" And the patient said, "No, it's moving up. Maybe you're moving it for me by stimulating my brain." And then the patient was told by Dr. Penfield, he said, "Even as I stimulate your brain in order for your arm to move like this, I want you to make a choice. I want you to move it somewhere else." And in one instance, the patient reached over from the other arm and pulled it in this direction. In another instance, he resisted the movement and put it somewhere else. And with that simple conclusion, Dr. Penfield came to a very interesting conclusion. With that simple experiment, he said the brain is telling the body to go like this, but there's someone here who's telling the brain, "I'm not going to let you do that, I'm going to move it like this." He said there's a choice maker that can override the commands of the brain to the body. He said, "I know where the command post is, but where is the commander?" The choice maker that overrides the commands of the brain to the body. And like that, Dr. Penfield did many other experiments to look for that person inside you who's all the time making choices and all the time making interpretations of experience. You know, we remember things, we interpret them. You are a choice maker. In every moment of your life, you're making choices about the future, and you're also remembering the past, and you're interpreting this past. And then you have imagination and creativity and all the things I have mentioned. This essential you cannot be found inside your body or inside your brain. And there's a very simple principle in science. It's called Occam's principle, named after scientist called Occam. And he said, when you don't have an explanation, then the simplest explanation is probably the correct explanation. So what's the simplest explanation that you can't be found in your body or in your brain? What's the simplest explanation? You're not there. The simplest explanation that your consciousness cannot be found in your brain or your body, that your soul can't be found, is that you're not in it. So these days there are lots of very interesting books on so-called out-of-body experiences, when the real mystery is how do we manage to get an in-body experience without being in it? You are not in your body. Your body is in you. You're not in your mind is in you. You're not in this world, the world is in you. This was the greatest brilliant insight of the rishis of the Upanishads. They said, I'm not in the body is in me. I'm not in the mind is in me. Me meaning my core consciousness. I'm not in the world is in me. The body, the mind, the world, they happen to me as I curve back within myself and I create again and again. It's right there in the Upanishads, in the Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna, when he speaks to Arjuna, explains this as one of the teachings of yoga. It says, Prakratim swam vashtabhai vishrajami puna puna. Curving back within myself, I create. I create my mind, I create my body, and I create the whole universe. So this is very ancient wisdom, but it's finding some validity in science today. Because according to science, and I'm not now talking philosophy or speculation or metaphysics or anything of the sort, we're talking about our modern technology. If you can surf the information highway today, if you can Twitter, if you can send email or text message someone, all these technologies are based on a very fundamental premise in science. And what's the fundamental premise in science? The essential nature of the physical world is that it's not physical. The essential nature of the material world is it's not material. The essential stuff of the universe is non-stuff. Everything that we call matter is made up of molecules. The molecules are made up of atoms. The atoms are subatomic particles that are moving at lightning speeds around huge empty spaces. And these subatomic particles are not things. What are these subatomic particles? According to science, they are probability clouds in a huge emptiness. And in fact, if there's one terminology that scientists agree upon, they say that the essential nature of the physical world is that it's a discontinuity. Discontinuity means something that's going on and off. And at the most fundamental levels, it's, you might say, if you want to simplify it, it's electromagnetic field of virtual photons that are going on and off. So if you could see things as they really are, not through the artifact of your sensory apparatus, which is really an artifact, you'd see the huge electromagnetic storm that's going on and off. But our sensory apparatus cannot process information at that speed, so we experience continuity. It's like when you go to the movies, you see continuity on the screen, but actually a movie is a series of still frames that are being flashed on and off. Or when you see a Christmas light going around a Christmas tree, there's no light actually traveling around a tree. There are light bulbs that are going on and off, and you can't process it, so you can't see the off between the ons, and the memory of the on lingers in the off, so you see a moving light. Or when you see a moving picture on your television screen, there's no picture that travels across the screen, only electrons and photons. They go on and off a certain pattern. The picture and the movement of the picture is in your consciousness. So all our experience of the world depends on discontinuity. And yet we experience continuity. Right now, my vocal cords are going on and off. Photons are bouncing off your retina on and off. If you taste, smell something, that sends an on-off signal to your brain. Even touch is based on on-off. If I put my hand on your thigh and I don't move it, after a while you won't know it's there. If I start to move it again, you might say, what the heck are you trying to do? Okay? So our experience of continuity depends on discontinuity. Okay, if I take your picture with my BlackBerry and I send it to somebody in China, then a picture doesn't go from here, right? An on-off signal goes from here. Goes through these walls, goes through your body, etc., etc. Even when the signal reaches their computer, there's no picture on the screen. There's just these on-off signals that then travel to their eyes, to their brain. The picture is in their consciousness. Am I making sense? Okay. So the question today is not what's in the on, but what's in the off. Because between every two ons, there's an off. What's in the discontinuity? And several years ago, I got into a conversation with some really brilliant scientists who spent their lives thinking about this. And so I said, let's talk about this. And so, there is general agreement among scientists about 5 attributes of the discontinuity. And I want you to try and remember these. The first attribute is, in the discontinuity, there's no energy, there's no information, there's no space-time, and there are no objects. So what's there? And the best answers that science can give you is there are infinite possibilities. There are superpositions of waves of possibility. So the discontinuity is the immeasurable potential for energy, information, space-time, and what we call matter. Matter doesn't exist out there. Matter is in our consciousness. Without consciousness, it remains a radically ambiguous and ceaselessly flowing quantum soup. The second attribute of the discontinuity is that it's infinitely correlative. It correlates everything, and this is a technical word for this is entanglement. Everything is entangled with everything, and it's all at once. So in nature, things don't happen one at a time. Everything happens all at once. You know, the human body, for example, which is a biological organism, but all biological organisms are part of nature. And nature itself, now planet Earth, is thought to be a biological organism. Everything happens all at once, and everything is correlated with everything else. The human body, for example, has 100 trillion cells, which is more than all the stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Each cell performs 100,000 activities every second, and every cell instantly knows and tracks the activity of every other cell and correlates it. How does the human body think thoughts, play a piano, kill germs, remove toxins, and make a baby all at the same time? And while your body can do that, it tracks the movement of stars and planets because your biological rhythms are the symphony of the whole universe. So non-local correlation is actually a technical mathematical term for omniscience, omnipresence, omnipotence. Everything happening all at once, everything correlated with everything all at once. The third attribute of the discontinuity is that it proliferates with uncertainty. You cannot compute the laws of nature at the most fundamental level. Einstein, who first was very uncomfortable with uncertainty, when he said, I don't believe that God would play dice with the universe, later on went to say, insofar as the laws of nature are real, they are uncertain. Insofar as they are uncertain, they are not real. Which means at a certain level, nature precludes you from understanding it, rationally or mathematically. The fourth attribute is something called quantum leaps, where subatomic particles move from one location to a new location without going through the space in between. So if you watch the movie Star Trek or the television program, it's when the captain says, beam me up, Scotty. Scotty presses a button. Captain disappears here, shows up in another dimension of space-time without going through the space in between. And the fifth attribute is observer effect, which, according to John Wheeler, who just died last year at the age of 97, and he, along with some other scientists, about 40, 50 years ago, said the physical universe does not exist unless a conscious being is looking at it. So if you weren't looking at the universe, it would remain a vibration, or some sentient being or unit of sentience was not looking. Okay, enough of the technical stuff. These attributes are the attributes of your own consciousness. And the reason no one can find it, first of all, is it's a subjective experience, but secondly, it doesn't exist in space-time. Where are you experiencing space-time right now? Where are you experiencing space? In your consciousness. But your consciousness is spaceless. Where are you experiencing time right now? In your consciousness. But your consciousness itself is timeless. You know, again, if you read the Bhagavad Gita, water cannot wet it, wind cannot dry it, weapons cannot cleave it, fire cannot burn it, it's ancient, it's unborn, it doesn't die. So your consciousness, which is spaceless, timeless, dimensionless, gives rise to space-time dimensionality. Everything that we call real, including your body. Now, if we totally get this, okay, that our body is experienced and created in consciousness, then where can it be transformed? At what level? In consciousness. If it's created in consciousness, then you can only transform it in consciousness. Okay, so on the basis of this, and on the basis of some really good science, I came up in this book with 5 breakthroughs for the body and 5 breakthroughs for the soul. And then the last part of the book is 10 steps to wholeness. But let's just look at the 5 breakthroughs for the body. The first breakthrough for the body is that your body is not a structure. That's a perceptual lie. Our senses don't tell us the truth. After all, your senses tell you the earth is flat. Nobody believes that anymore. The senses tell you that this ground you are standing on is stationary, and we know it's spinning at dizzying speeds and hurtling through space at thousands of miles an hour. And senses tell us our bodies are anatomical. They're not. Our bodies are a process in consciousness, and in fact your body recycles itself once a year. 98% of all the atoms in your body recycle once a year. It's a process in consciousness. And the process, of course, through eating, breathing, digestion, metabolism, elimination, thought, feeling, emotions, memory, imagination, creativity, elimination, all of that. But there's a process going on. And it's not a fixed process. So today we know there's a term that's been used a lot in science, neuronal plasticity, which means you can train your mind to change the structure of your brain, because your brain is not essentially a structure, it's a process. Okay, and there are lots of studies on Buddhist monks who can change the size of their brain, who can change body temperature, who can influence autonomic function, who can cause the secretion of neuropeptides and all kinds of things, okay, through meditations on contemplative meditations, or what the Buddhists call loving kindness, compassion, joy, profound peace, equanimity, because these practices allow you to go beyond your personal self into your transpersonal self. So your brain is not fixed, nor are your genes fixed, and that is a revolutionary finding that comes from here. Dr. Dean Ornish is one of the scientists who was part of the study that was published in the National Academy of Sciences, that within 3 months of changing your lifestyle in certain mental practices, stress management, meditation, yoga, breathing, diet, exercise, you can actually change the expression of 500 genes that code for things like heart disease, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, inflammation, obesity, and even certain types of cancer. As I said, the study was published, and now, of course, there's a lot of interest in what is called epigenetics. How do factors independent of the genes regulate the genes? Major breakthrough. Now you have to think, just for a second, that your genes are in every cell of your body. So every cell of your body has a nucleus, and there is DNA inside that, and genes are part of the DNA, and you can influence these genes. Think of genes as nanocomputers. Think of genes as quantum computers that, along with the epigenes, are regulating 100 trillion cells, performing 100,000 activities every second. And you can influence that. So that's the first breakthrough, based on solid science. Okay? The second breakthrough in the body is that your body is an energy field and an information field. Even though we think of it as a molecular field, it's a biological, but it's an energy field, really. If somebody gets their information, let's say you have a lot of money in the stock market, and it's all your retirement money, and then suddenly the stock market collapses, that one bit of information immediately changes biological information in your body, right? So information, whether it comes from the outside or generated inside. Somebody says, I think your wife is having an affair. Well, that'll change your information, biological information right away. Your blood pressure will go up, your heart rate will go up, your cortisol will go up. Okay, so information, whether it's generated internally or from the outside, will change your body. So we have to start thinking of the body. In biology, the technologies of information and energy, which we take for granted everywhere else, have not crept into the scientific way of thinking about the body. But if you can start to treat your body, and this is what the yogis did, by the way, they experienced their body, the astral body. What does the word astral body mean? Coming from the stars, because it is made out of photons, ultimately. Photons are the raw material. And you can learn to experience your body as a light body, a body that's nourished by photons. And again, ancient wisdom, but very modern understanding. That's the second breakthrough. The third breakthrough is that you can change your experience of time. What is time? Has anybody actually seen time? Time is a thing in consciousness too. You know people who say all the time, I'm running out of time. I have 10 deadlines. What a terrible word, by the way, deadlines. Okay, so when people have that internal dialogue, I'm running out of time, their biological clock speeds up. They have faster heart rate, jittery platelets with high levels of adrenaline, higher blood pressure, and when they suddenly drop dead of a heart attack, then they have run out of time. Okay? Or time is the internal dialogue that separates the observer from the observed. It's the measurement of experience. You learn a lot about it in the book, but you can shift how you experience time internally. You know, as somebody says, the beauty of the mountain was breathtaking, time stood still. Or, well, you fell in love, time didn't exist. So when you metabolize, there's a part of you that is timeless. Okay, so right now, in fact, as you're listening to me, turn your attention to who's listening. So as you're listening to me, be aware of who's listening. If you feel a still presence, that's your soul. It's not your mind which might be saying, I wish I'd gone to the bathroom before the lecture or whatever. You know, your mind is a conversation that happens in that awareness. And that awareness is timeless. It was there when you were a baby. Different body, different mind, different emotions, but that presence was there. So everything comes and goes, but it comes and goes in that presence. And once again, the great wisdom tradition said, hold on to that. That's the only part of you that's real. The rest, as the Buddha said, is a phantom, a dream. It comes and goes. Okay, so that's the third breakthrough. You can change your experience of time. The fourth breakthrough I've already mentioned. You can change the expression of your genes, just like you can change your brain. And the fifth breakthrough is you can always use your awareness to do this, because awareness is the key. The quality of your attention and the qualities of your intention. Now, I've tried to say a lot in a short time, but you'll find lots of interesting exercises to do this. Because when I say reinvent your body, I mean it literally. Okay? I'm doing it. I'm 63 today, by the way. Okay? Yeah. And I'm reinventing my body, and I'm inviting you to do the same. Okay? So you cannot do it, though, other than being in touch with your soul, with your core consciousness. And just like there are 5 breakthroughs in the book about the body, there are 5 breakthroughs about the soul. How much time do we have? Almost done? Okay. So the 5 breakthroughs of the soul is, when you're in touch with this core consciousness, then your life is, first breakthrough is one of effortless spontaneity. Which means you should wake up every day and ask yourself only 3 questions. Is it fun? Is it easy? Am I getting results? And if you can't say yes to all 3, then you're not in touch with your soul, period. The second breakthrough of the soul is that when you are in touch with your soul, you spontaneously feel joy, love, compassion, kind, because you're connected to all of life. It's not an effort, it's who you are. The third breakthrough of the soul is that you have access to unlimited imagination and creativity. Because in the discontinuity is the field of infinite possibilities. The fourth breakthrough of the soul is you experience what religious traditions call the state of grace, or in modern psychological terms, synchronicity, meaningful coincidences. And the fifth breakthrough of the soul, or the core consciousness, is that you recognize what the power of intention is, what we in India and the ancient traditions call sankalp, subtle action, subtle intention, and you choose evolution over entropy. So these are the 5 breakthroughs of the soul, and then you'll go, in the last part of the book are the 10 steps to do this. And even though these are ancient practices, I've done my best to make this understandable to everybody in modern times, because some of the terminologies of ancient wisdom traditions they seem esoteric, they seem metaphysical, they seem quote unquote a little foreign to us. So I've done my best to explain this in modern contemporary scientific language, and I've tried to base everything I said in the book on valid science. So thank you very much.